It is time for our July reading wrap-up. In July, I read a total of 7 books for a total of 2,536 pages. Wow, it was way harder to say that number than I thought it would be. If you haven't watched one of my wrap-ups before, I do them like this. I do the best of the best first, books that I think are totally worth your time, your money, your attention. Then I move on to books that are more middle of the road, ones I call borrow it books. And then I go into skip it books, books that I do not think are worth your time or your money. So you can stay as long or as little as you want. If you just want the best of the best, then just watch the beginning, the buy it books. And if you want to be wary of what books to maybe look out for and not spend your money on, then go ahead and watch the whole thing. Either way, it's up to you. Let's go ahead and dive in. By far my favorite book of the month was The Forgotten Kingdom, which is the sequel to The Lost Queen, which is a historical fiction that some put in the fantasy category by Signe Pike. It is based on the story of Merlin's sister. It's Arthurian myth, legend, and it's told in such a way that is so fascinating and fun. Book 2 was way more fast-paced than book 1, though I enjoyed book 1 too, but it's a really rare thing when the sequel is better than the original. I'm highly recommending this series, which comes out very soon. I think it's September. Honestly, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to check, but I'll leave it in the description below. And if you're curious about more details about that book and that series, then I will link to my proper review video for The Forgotten Kingdom. But for the sake of this video, I will just say that 5 stars. I loved it, and I cannot wait for book 3. Next in my buy it books is a nonfiction that is incredibly relevant for our times, and I think a very, very important book that I hope more people will read. What the author's trying to do is talk about ancient wisdom and things that have worked, strategies that have worked in life for a very long time, beyond just our own recent histories, just strategies about being a person and an individual and your self-development, and how there are these ideas that are in complete contrast to that are being given to the young people of the world today, and how damaging that can and has been to the kind of modern socio-political climate going on right now. So really fascinating, no matter which side of the spectrum you're on, if you're in the middle, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's a little liberal leaning, but seriously, it's as nonpartisan as you can get, honestly. I think people are maybe incapable of doing that now, but he does a good job of really trying to illustrate different points and to be as fair as most people can. So definitely a great book. I can't say more than just hopefully you'll read it. Next up on my buy it list is Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell, who never disappoints. She is a kind of auto-buy author for me. She writes these really fun, twisty, family dynamic thrillers that you can never figure out the mystery of. It's always something different than you expect, and it's usually dark and sinister and kind of mind-bendy a little bit, and I don't know, I just think her work's really fun. Invisible Girl is her newest release, and while it's not my favorite of the bunch, I still think it's worth the read if you're interested in her work, if you like mystery thrillers. It's just good fun. It's about a younger girl who goes missing, her psychiatrist, his family, and their neighbor across the street named Owen Pick, whose life has completely fallen to shambles. It's a really, really good exploration into truth and lies and the difficulty of sometimes telling the difference between those two things. Really fun book if you're a Lisa Jewell fan. If not, if you've never read her before, Then She Was Gone is definitely her best work without a doubt, so definitely try that one first. But if you're into her work, this is a good one to add to your collection. That's it for Best of the Best or Buy It books, so if that's all you wanted, then see you later. And if you want to stay around for the Borrow It and Skip It books, then let's go ahead and dive in. I have 2 Borrow It books, the first of which is Don't Look for Me by Wendy Walker. Wendy Walker wrote Emma and the Night, which is a really inventive idea for a mystery thriller novel that came out either last year or the year before, I can't remember, but I loved that book when it came out, and so when I saw that she had a new one, I of course jumped on the chance to review it. It's a story about a mother who's grieving the loss of one of her children, and one day she just disappears. The police think that there's no foul play, nothing wrong with it, it's just a case of a walk away where people are so overwhelmed by their life, they decide to leave it, just walk away, and start a new one. But her daughter is not convinced that that's the case, and so we're trying to tie all these different pieces together and find out what happened to her mother, and if she did walk away, or if something more sinister was at play. It was definitely not as polished as Emma and the Night, though the idea was still inventive. It was a little overdone, a little overdramatic at times, but still fun, still a borrow it type of book. Next in my borrow it section is The End of October by Lawrence Wright. It is a meticulously researched and kind of eerily foretelling of our current times. It's a book about a pandemic and how viruses, illnesses can spread if left to their own devices. It was meticulously researched, almost like you're reading a news piece or reading a very long description of the history of of viruses, which was interesting in itself, but I wanted more of the plot and this sort of post-apocalyptic feel that the book was going for. So while parts of it were good, the characters were very likable from the start, you never have the chance to really explore them. And whenever those action parts of the plot finally come into fruition, they're skipped over, and all those little moments that you wanted more of, as most post-apocalyptic readers do, are just sort of left in the dust. And I wanted more of that going into it, but I can see how it would appeal to a certain type of reader. It's just that for me, it was definitely a Barwood book. It had a lot of great ingredients of a post-apocalyptic thriller, or not even a thriller, just a post-apocalyptic novel, but it fell a little short for me, and I wish it had been better edited. Still a good Barwood book if that suits your fancy. Lastly, I have 2 skip it books on this list, the first of which is Wolves of Winter, which was a backlist book I've been meaning to read for ages and ages, which is another post-apocalyptic thing. I guess I was in the mood this month for that sort of topic, and it really let me down. It's about a family who goes into the wilds in the north and where it's cold and freezing, and I thought that it was going to be better than it was. It had a lot of things just to annoy me in these sort of books where the main character acts like they're like a toddler, or okay, that's not fair, but they act way younger than they are or than their character experience would allow them to be. It doesn't make any sense. The romance was just eye-rolly, and I just couldn't take it. I don't recommend it. Last on this list, and last of these skip it books, is The Erratics, which is a memoir that is marketed as a book which is about a family whose mother was apparently very manipulative and controlling and apparently like maybe abusive, but we don't really know. It takes a lot of courage to write a memoir, and it's kind of like an exorcism in a way. You've got to find some sort of passion within yourself to expel those feelings and those thoughts and those memories and put them in a nice book and just get it out there into the world. The page is like your confessional and the reader your priest, and if you do it well, you can come out the other side feeling better or more whole somehow. It does take a lot of mettle and grit in order to get those things out though, and unfortunately I do not think that this author was ready to fully confess, if you will, everything that happened to her. There's a lot of cloaked asides and guarded half-truths, but nothing really examining what could have happened with her family. This is really disappointing to me because the author had a supreme gift of language, but she didn't really use it to speak any hard truths. So definitely a skip it book, and it was unfortunate because it had so much potential, but sometimes that's just the way it happens. And that's it for July's reading wrap up. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a quick thumbs up, drop a comment below letting me know what you read last month, what you loved or what you hated. And if you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, then go ahead, press that subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.